Hey guys, and welcome back to another YouTube video. In this video I'll be doing my AFL Fantasy Team Reveal 2.0, going through how it's changed over the last, let me just check when that video was actually released. The first team reveal was released over a month ago now, like about 40 days ago. I think it is about, about 40 days ago now. And how my team has changed and how some people have sort of stuck in my side, how there's still a lot of ums and ahhings. That will probably mean that there will be another probably 2 more team reveals in the 40 odd days until the first bounce of the actual round 1. There may even be 3, considering that there will be probably 1 given the round 0 things, as well as 1 considering, I guess, the buys and not loading up on premiums. And then there'll probably be another one in in mid-Feb or so, around that time. But anyway, let's just jump into this video. But before we do, remember to like and subscribe, turn the notification bell on, as I do have next week rolling out will be my mid prices and my premiums for all of the lines. That should be, as I said, 7 videos, as well as now we have the sort of stats. At least Warney put up a Twitter post, I believe it was Warney, about the leading fantasy ownership for players. So I will create a sort of vanilla team, which will probably be very relatively close. I did something, it was like top 14 out of the top 30 were I owned as well, so it should be relatively close to mine. But I'll do something like that and try and fit the most vanilla team in that I can, and then do a video sort of comparing and contrasting what people are doing, and sort of that will be the next, I think, week or 2 for videos. But anyway, let's get into this video now. So as you can see here, I've got the team and I'm hiding it a little bit at the moment. But over here, you'll see, if I go over here, this was my team for Team Reveal 1.0. If I actually move this for you, you can see Daniel Curtin and Archie Roberts are there. So that gives you a sign there. And then you had Wangadine Miller, Hayden Young, Harry Himmelberg, as you can see a little bit, Heath Chapman, Zach Williams, Nick Caulfield, Butters, Steele, David Juniak, Walsh, Newcomb, Sardis, Merkircher, Sanders, Sharp, and also Jai Clark. And then we go over to this next one, and you can see I've sort of just taken a screenshot from the actual video. Conway's still in at R3, as you can see. Let me just put that back. And then you've got Jerry, Grundy, McRae, Flanders, Rochelle, Fisher, McRae, Reed, Manor, Dersma, and Cooper Simpson. So that was the side when I did the team reveal back on, I believe it was uploaded the 18th of December. And here is, I guess, the team reveal for, what are we now? The 28th of January. So let's start off with the sort of, we'll do back 6, I guess. Let me just make this a little bit bigger for you guys. Hopefully it doesn't ruin it. There we go. So back 6, I currently have Nick Dacos here, and the reason I have him at the moment is because I can see there being value there. Sydney and Carlton have lost their taggers, and I know that Carlton is a little bit down the list. But Sydney have lost their tagger in for the round 1 game, so he should go 100 plus there. Giants, I don't think will tag. St Kilda, I don't see tagging. Brisbane won't tag. And I'm still wondering, and Hawks fans can put this in the comments, whether McGuinness is actually best 22. I need to actually tweet this to some Hawthorn fans just to see what they're to see if he is, because the fact that Nick Dacos without tags, he goes about 118, which is plus 10, and 118, if he goes that, and even if he gets held to an 80 on the in the Hawks game, because a lot of people won't be able to get to him until round 7, and say he goes round 7, that would be 6 games of a 118, 6 times 118, plus say an 80, divide that by 7, that's still a 112, and a 112 means that he's probably would be about 1.1, 1.01, 1.02 at least. And that's saying that he's going to go an 80 in the Hawk game. What about if he gets a 160 game somewhere here as well, where he could go 120 or something like that. So yeah, it's just, I think there is value there with Nick Dacos. But also, if he does just stink up the place with an 80 or 90 against GWS, then he will be out of the side, and there will be probably another midfield premium, and that's why I'm going to do the a team reveal after round 0, because there is still look at Zach Williams. There's a couple guys here that are on the early buy that have that like Jacob Ryan. That is another one that I'm just going to try and find a round 0 200k guy that plays, because that is basically what I'm looking at there, or a 200k guy that plays in round 1 anyway. But so that is why he will most likely change, and why there will be a video, because there's about 5 or 6, potentially even 8 guys already that I have in my side that will potentially change. Well, there's about 3 or 4 on field that will potentially change given round 0 performances, and at least 5 or 6 on the bench that will. So there's 8 or 9 changes potentially there. Nick Dacos is also just sort of a placeholder, because I don't want to have to be like, I have, for instance, I go down to Wanganeen Malira, I'd spend a little bit more money probably going down, I think, Nick Caulfield to Marty Hoare potentially, and then that would generate 200k, and that would almost get me straight up to Gawn if Conway was playing. That is one of the things I've looked at, or potentially going another strong guy in the midfield, and going another sort of mid-pricer in the forward line, so that is sort of a plan there. Or just going another one of the, I don't really know where to spend the extra money, to be honest with you. But then, so Nick Dacos is just there at the moment, because I don't want to have to rejig my structure around so much to grab him. But if he does go like a 160 in the like GWS game, then I think a lot of people will have to grab on him, because even if he goes small in the McGuinness game, which we don't know what's going to happen there, obviously, he'll still be 1.1, 1.01, 1.02 as a minimum, basically. Stewart's 869k, I think there's just value, especially with Radaglia coming out, sort of meant that we thought Stewart would have to play more as a defender, sort of what we saw with Sicily, but with them drafting Connor O'Sullivan, I don't think it's going to make much of an impact, to be honest, with Tom Stewart, and he does have that injury 14 game, which sort of knocks him. I don't know what exactly it was, but I believe he had an injury 14. If he did, then 21... So that would be 2105 divided by 21. He would be a 100.2. So that injury game is almost 4 points of upside there. So just thinking about that, Tom Stewart should be a top 6 defender with a potential upside as well. Looks good. Hayden Young moving to the midfield, priced at 89. He should outdo that. His last 5 sort of gives an indication of what he should do in the midfield, but that would be very rough. And I think within he could do a 90 obviously in the midfield, but I suspect it will be high 90s, like 98 or so that he'll go, which will still be close enough to top defenders. And then we go to average. Does it show? Here we go. A 99 would be 1, 2, 3, 4 would be about the top 6 range already, and you're getting that 8 points unders rather than paying full price for a premium defender, which is what you're looking for in the midfield. So if you can get that in the defender position as well, you're sort of laughing, and that's why I think Hayden Young is so 31.3% owned. I think he will go up towards that sort of 45% owned by the time that the AFL season starts. Heath Chapman, another guy, and the basic premise of this is that he is priced at, I believe, what do we say? He was priced at 54 or so, 494 times divided by 9,030. Yeah, he's priced at 54.7, has a 60.3 overall, and if we actually go down to here and go Chapman, here we go, you will see that I believe that 60 point... it does have a 24 game, so you can sort of take that out and it'd be averaging 77 or whatever, 78 I think it is, yeah, 78.5. But he has a 69.3 from 15 games last year, and a slightly in 2022, sorry, with a slightly worse role. If I move it up so you can see it, 15 games, 69.3. So if you expect that to improve just slightly, I could see him averaging 72, 73, which is plus 18 in a sort of defensive log. It's sort of hard to find both a value. You need both a value and upside, because you can't just go all 300k guys, because you're just going to be burning points. So I think Heath Chapman is a guy that potentially has anywhere between 75 to, could go anywhere from 70 to 80, which could pretty much bridge the gap along with a defender on the bench to get up to those Nick Newmans, Sicily that we don't have at the moment, who I expect will regress down to the bottom of the top 6 guys, top 6 defenders. And if we bring this back up to the defenders here, you have Sinclair, Ryan, Newman. Sheasel, I expect to regress a little bit. Duggan, Whitfield, Houston. Houston could be a good option if you wanted to go from Dacos down, but I think I'd go Wangadeen Malira, to be honest with you. But you sort of need those Heath Chapmans, those Zach Williams, where you can make some quick cash, get them up to, if Heath Chapman can make 75, 80 for the first sort of 5-6 weeks, then he'll go up to, I reckon, 600k or so, 630k, and then you can jump. Curtin should be in the 400s by then, and then you can jump straight up to an 800k plus guy, like maybe a Duggan or a Newman or a Ryan, etc., and then have almost another premium there. Williams, sort of same concept with Heath Chapman, just has the round 0, so you're going to need to cover him in the round 2, is it, that he has that bye? Round 2, he has the bye, but then he has North Melbourne, which is a really good fantasy matchup, in my opinion. So you got him, and then you're just going to put Dan Curtin or Jacob Ryan or someone there, potentially maybe a utility, who I don't have at the moment. My bench is sort of actually stacked with just guys that have a little bit of value that aren't 200k. That could get an early game, just because I needed to not overindulge on field and have sort of that ability to rein it back when you're sort of making those last ditch decisions, I guess. So yeah, Zach Williams, same thought as Heath Chapman, just need a guy on field for him in round 2 when he has that bye. Even though Dan Curtin, I don't suspect, will be best 18 in that bye week, he could surprise us and go with 75 or something like that, which would just be good. Caulfield, same block as sort of the Marty Hoare and the Dan Curtin. One of them's probably going to be on field, one of them's going to be on the bench for me. It's as simple as that out of those 3 guys. And Caulfield currently is on field, but I'm really liking the look of Marty Hoare, which would give me slightly more cap to be able to potentially go up to another guy in the midfield, and maybe get away from the Steele, Davis Uniacke, Newcomb, sort of dangerous 3, I'm almost going to call it at this point. Curtin on the bench, he should be fine, to be honest with you. Simple as that. He's not going to have the big role, fancy role, I should say. I'm looking at McElhaney's sort of what he was averaging if we get him out. And you see 52.4. I reckon he could go slightly better than that, just because he has that midfield tendency as well when he was in the the under 18s. So I'm just sort of expecting for Curtin 55 to 60 range. Ryan, as I went through my Collingwood preview, I have really high hopes for him. I think he could get a game. We saw him get concussed in their game. I think it might have been against Sydney, was it, that he played? If we actually go to the game, I think it was it against Sydney that he got concussed? Let's just see, who were they playing? It was against Brisbane, sorry. He got concussed, 29% time on ground for a 19. I would suspect a rookie probably would have only had about 75% time on ground, but a 75% time on ground, if we actually do the maths in it, times by 75, he would have ended up with a 49. So he's currently priced at 22, so that's 27 points upside against a tough side. He could easily get that chip ball mark game and get sort of upwards of 30, 35 points of upside, to be honest with you. M1 now has changed. If we go back to it, the line was Butters, Steele, Davis Uniacke, Walsh and Newcomb. So basically Walsh has come out for Rory Laird, and that was on the back of the Adelaide review or preview. When I sort of looked at it, I went, I think Rory Laird's actually got just a tad bit of upside. And yes, this is on the back of the move of Crouch into the midfield, but I just think that Rory Laird has the ability to, he's got upside in the sense that his last 5 was strong of 114 when the move was in place. I'm not saying that just in general when you look at players saying their last 5 across the season when there was no role changes is good. There was a role change in the Adelaide midfield, and Rory Laird did get the extra time, and they actually looked pretty good in that stretch of time when they were playing. So I like the look of that, as well as the fact that he does have a 57, so which was just a weird game. I'm not going to discount it, but there is potential upside there with that. If he just even returns that to an 80, that's 1 more point of upside. So I'm looking at Rory Laird and just thinking, I think he could just be a 112, 113 guy. And to have a captaincy option, if you look at his fixtures to start, Gold Coast, like that. Geelong, like that. Freo, I think they're going to be bad. Melbourne and Adelaide Oval, I like the look of that. Even Carlton, I think he'll do well against. Essendon, I really like the look of that. Then he's got North. Like, his hard run comes in 8, 9, 10. That is his hard run. So I'm not looking, but that'll be the time when I have other guys. Like, I know Zach Butters, 8, 9, and 10 has Adelaide, but then has Geelong and Hawks and North. So that's a decent run there. Steele as well, I think, has a 8, 9, 10 has North, Hawks, Freo. Davis Uniacke obviously is probably going to have a tough run anyway. 8, 9, 10 is a relatively tough run. So just looking at that, and what my top midfielders will be playing against each other in that run, but just looking at that and saying, if I can match up, I want Laird to be that guy that I can rely on with the captaincy in the first couple of weeks. Obviously, round 1, it's going to be Butters, just because he's got West Coast, as simple as that. And round 2 onwards, basically, he's got Geelong. I'll captain him there probably, because Steele has Collingwood. I don't like that. No one's got really a good matchup there. I mean, Butters against Richmond. If I do have a non-playing guy, which we will in round 2, it will probably be a Butters into Laird or a Laird into Butters or whatever. But yeah, just looking at that and seeing that sort of the captaincy lineup, I'm really liking the look of Laird just to be that sort of 115, 120 captaincy score early on, because you saw last year when, if you were following along, I had a horrid time with captaincy when there was 30 guys on, and I captained, I think, a couple of 80 scores. I think Dunkley, Bont, and Witts were my first 3 scores, and I think they combined in total for about 250 points across the first 3 weeks, or 260 points. So I burnt already about 100 points in captaincy alone in that first 3 weeks, basically. And I mean, that came back to bite me, probably cost me about 300 ranks in general. But I just want Laird in there, and Laird and Butters basically to just go hand in hand each week and just be a captaincy VC option, basically, is what my plan is. Steele, I think with ups, he's been training actually pretty well from all reports, and there's a lot of upside there. I think with Steele, he could return back to his best, and his 97 average doesn't really give him credit for what he was going through. Well, considering what he was going through with his injuries, I should say, with a broken collarbone, ankles, knees, or whatever, calves, I don't know. It was a lot of injuries. To get a 98 is a pretty good run of it. So I reckon he could go 105, 110, and that will be bottom top 8 as a midfielder, to be honest with you. You can see here that there's a lot of midfielders, but if we go top 8, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Rory Laird would be 9, so 10, 11, 12, 13, 14. He would be 15th best midfielder if he went 105, and if he went 110, it would go up to basically top 8, top 9, which is what you want. You want sort of the 6 of the top 10 or so in the midfield for fantasy purposes, to be honest with you, as soon as you can get it. David Uniacke, if he trains and he plays well, he can go a 105, to be honest with you. Same as sort of the Jack Steele. He's shown in flashes that he can do it. I mean, his last 5 has shown a flash of what he can do. Whether he can replicate that 110 across the whole season is another ask. Yes, he did play 14 games, but if you actually look at Luke Davis-Uniacke's whole his injury history in the past, you'll see it's actually not terrible, as much people will say this and that about it. If we actually look at it, 14, 21, 20, 9 games in 2020, he did have an injury in there, and it was only a 17-game season. 2019, 14 games, and then his his rookie year, 7 games, not the greatest. But he's still already played 85 games before he's turned 25. Not the worst, but obviously not the greatest. But he's playing in the North team when they're terrible, to be honest with you. So he's never going to have those 24, 25 game, 22, 23 games. Well, I mean, they don't count actually finals now, thinking about it. But he's never really had that sort of, he's never had a full season, but I don't think it's as bad as what people think, because these were his sort of rookie years where he's getting into it. Sometimes you get dropped or whatever. Then he had a 2020 year where he played half the games. And then from this point onwards, he's playing, I think I calculated, something like 76% of games. And he had a major injury in 2023. So I'm not too worried about his injury history. It's not like there's some other guys that play like 50%, 40%, etc. I'm not too worried about Davis Uniacke, and so he is in the side at the moment. But obviously, that is due to probably going to change overall. Newcomb, he fought 2K. I'm really looking at him thinking he can take the next step. I don't think there's any real potential for him to go back down a step. I think there's only sort of upside with him at 93, and you can sort of just change him after sort of 5 or 6 weeks. If he's stalling at 95, 96, there'll be a rookie that I can just upgrade with Newcomb to get up to a sort of big boy like a Tom Green or El Goulden after that. But anyway, McKercher, Sanders, Sharp, just 3 rookies, just looking for 65 plus out of these guys, as that'll be good. But McKercher down back should do fine. Sanders, 46% owned. He's the top midfield pig from the rookie class. And then Sharp on a wing could easily do 65, 70, 75, somewhere around there, which is what we need. And then Jai Clark on the bench, I reckon he is blooded early again for the Geelong Cats. Their midfield just needs something different. Well, I actually looked at it yesterday, and it's actually their ruck line that needs some new blooding, as they're one of the worst for, I think, hit-outs and hit-outs to advantage, and that's why their clearance work has gone to be one of the best in the comp to one of the worst in the comp in the last sort of, it's flipped in the course of about 24 months. So I think they either need to change something with their midfield as their Rovers, or they need to give Toby Conway a chance, which I currently have him in there, as one, he's holding value there as well, and he can easily be downgraded and upgrade someone on field. But also, I generally think that Toby Conway could be a chance to play, and whether or not he gets like a 70 or whatnot, I think there's genuine value in potentially just going Grundy again in Grundy and Gawn, as that you may burn 50 points around off those two, but whether they both probably have 2.5 points of upside each. But also you got to look at Jerry could be one that surprises us all as well. So those are the 3 rucks that I'm definitely looking at in Grundy, Jerry, and Gawn. And I'm just trying to make a decision whether Jerry, is he going to be an 80 to 85 guy, or is he going to take that massive leap that we've seen some players take that you don't necessarily see with their points per minute or their contests or whatever. But he could easily go to a 90 to 95 guy, and that would be massive value. That would be, if we actually look at it here, priced at 66, so he's going to be priced at 63, I want to say. Let me just check that. 64 he's going to be priced at, so if he goes 91, that's 27 points of upside, or it's 25 to 30 points of upside, basically, potentially there if he takes a massive leap. So I think it's one that you can almost not avoid, or you almost have to go for just because of the massive upside potential. But I'm worried that he could get injured and there's no leap able to go without going, say, a Newcomb down to a Wardlaw and like a Sherry up to someone, because you basically got to jump him straight up to a Gawn. And I don't really, or maybe you could take a risk on Soldo if he does go down. But, you're very slim pickings. So that is the only real risk with Sherry, is that he gets injured yet again early in the season. And they have, he is currently injured at the moment, but he's going to be back. So it'll be fine. But Sherry could go down early again, and that will be him. Who do you go to, basically, from fantasy perspective? So there's that. That's basically everyone up until the forward line. And you can see here, McRae, Flanders at the moment is there just because I want to see him in round 0, because if he gets the right roll in round 0, goes like 120, then he will be almost, he's not going to be ungettable, but the fact is that he's almost going to be a guy that's going to be, you can lock in a top 6 guy. Yes, he does have the early buy, but you can lock it in. You can lock in a trade and lock in a guy that you don't need to trade out, which you're saving basically a trade for about 40 or 50, probably 40 or 40 points or so, I would say. So there's that for Flanders, basically. And that's why I have him. McRae can only see upside with him, to be honest with you. And with Smith going down, Daniel, I don't think will be training as much in, from what I've heard, it's sort of conflicting, I'm pretty sure. But from memory, I think he was training down sort of midfield back role, so that'll be interesting how that goes. Then you've got Bont, who's been said to have been, he's back in training now fully, but he obviously had the surgery and then the extended rehab with that. And it's also suspected that he will play more forward role at the start of the season. So hopefully he gets that 35% tick, because that would be huge, him coming into the forward line considerations. But McRae, I think, gets the early jump. And if I actually look at this, you'll probably be confused about this. But if you actually look at the inside mids, you'll see that Western Bulldogs have a kind fixture to start. They also have a kind ladder position fixture to start, as well as scoring points opposition have conceded. So this is what they will generally probably score in the first 7 weeks. They have also a really positive run. So that's why you can, and you can see general forwards as well if you wanted to consider that sort of McRae's half forward sort of role. You can see it's also positive as well for them. Admittedly, it's obviously very close on a lot of these. It's only within -2 and +2. But you can see that McRae should do all right there. So that's why I currently have him in my side. Fisher, currently in the rehab group from yesterday's training, I believe. But he's got, there's like, let me actually look at the 600k forwards, and you will see that there's quite a couple in that group. You got Taylor Adams, him, Rankin I don't like. There was someone else, I swear. Rochelle I do not like as well, so he can almost get unfavoured. McDonald don't really like. Oh, it was Baker, yes. So there's Baker, Adams, and also, who was it? Fisher and himself, and I think that's basically it. Lipinski don't really value that pick. Harms, I think, is way too overvalued, to be honest with you, at 630k. I think that's where it sort of ends up, around that 70 range. But there's about 3 guys in that 600k range that I'm looking at and thinking he could be good. If Fisher plays, I like the role the best. Adams could obviously play, and that's where I could potentially go someone. I could potentially go like a... If I go Nick Dacos down, I could potentially go a Tholstrop up to another Taylor Adams and have like a McRae off the field or something like that, gaining a lot of value there. But that would mean that would be 3 Sydney guys, and that would sort of get to the point where you're sort of a little bit iffy. But I could go Tholstrop up to a Baker and have him, so that more players when... I guess when Sydney and I think it's Sydney and Collingwood have the same bye round, which is not the greatest, given that I've got James Jordan and McRae currently. So I probably have to flip one onto the. That's why I have Cooper Simpson. So I can flip one onto the midfielder bench and play and potentially suck it up there, I guess. But anyway, so just trying to think about it now. Yeah, I don't think it's too bad to have those 2 at the moment, as I do think we will have a mid-forward that plays, and also, when do they buy? Is it round 5? I think it's round 5. Yeah, round 5. Shouldn't be too bad. And also, I can obviously just trade maybe a James Jordan up by then and upgrade him by then to another guy, as he will be coming off the West Coast game, I believe. Yeah, West Coast. Then you've got Suns and Hawks, and... Do they have anyone? It could be Finn McRae, could be done by then. So you could almost package those 2 together and then just play Sean Manor as an F6 by then. So that's also a plan. So there's many plans, and obviously those plans are probably going to be spoiled 95% of the time, because that is generally how AFL Fantasy works. As if you try and predict price rises or predict trade-ins and stuff like that more than about 2 weeks in advance, usually injuries pop up and stuff like that. Suspensions as well have been a killer, and players just underperforming and stuff like that, meaning that if you try and I've said this a lot last year, if you try and basically plan out and then you don't have enough cash to the point that you're playing almost a break-even game, saying that you need this guy to score this much to make a price rise and have a higher price rise than the guy that you want to trade in, usually that doesn't work as well, I've found. So it's better just to sort of plan in advance, but also be sort of look at all the options and not lock everything in. Because I wouldn't be locking in a Green to Walsh trade, because a lot of stuff can happen in that time. I wouldn't be locking in any trades other than sort of just your rookie sort of swaps at the moment, I would say. but have in mind those trades and stuff like that. Just know that that is a possibility, but also know that it's probably not going to work out. So you got James Jordan McRae, and then you got Harley Reid, who's training down back. He should be a stalwart down there basically, and hopefully he puts up a 75. I reckon he could. And there's that basically, and then you got Manor, Tholstrup, and Moore on the bench. Manor should play early. Tholstrup 264k holding value there, and then you got Moya here at 216k. So yeah, this is the, I guess, January update video. I think February will probably be a buys video, basically updating the team based on the buys and early buys especially, and not trying to get caught out on that. And then you'll have probably an update after the preseason games, and then an update after round 0, and basically my final team going into the actual season. But anyway, that is the AFL Fantasy team update video, team reveal 2.0. And comment down below any sort of questions or any sort of what your team is looking like. And so the next, as I said in the intro, the next couple of weeks will be the primos and the mid prices for all the lines, and then we'll probably have some head-to-head with guys that are on with a lot of the guys, because there is some interesting debates about who to go for, especially mid prices and primos, as some have obviously the early buy, some don't, and how to sort of work that out, etc. But anyway, that is the video, and I'll see you guys in the next one. Bye guys.